Hello you lovely people and welcome. In this video we'll be taking a look at the Azurpoly SEPECAT / Dassault Jaguar A, or in this case the GR1 external, and I'll be covering the following a flight plan, basic navigation using VOR and Tacan, using the Doppler to add an extra waypoint, and a quick look at the autopilot. So as you can see, I've got my usual flight plan for these types of videos at my usual stomping ground at Coningsby. So we're going to go up from Coningsby, go to Cranwell, Wannington, Otbed, and then the CGY 13, and then back into Coningsby. I'm in the 41 Squadron Jaguar GR1 external, purely because I'm biased, unfortunately. So let's jump in the jet and fly the flight plan. Right now, before we set off, we are just going to go into our electronic flight bag here, come down to the I symbol, and come into the GPS section. Select whichever one that you use as your preference. In my case, it's just the bog standard WT GNS 430, so we click that. You see it's just appeared on the front panel just there. We can move that down to the side, which I'm going to do now. Okay, close that. As you can see at the moment, our bearing distance heading indicator isn't reading anything, and neither is our sphere indicator. We need to make sure that the left is fully switch is fully to the left via our ILS. Our BDHI is in VT for VOR Tacan, and if we just go into our GPS and click this CDI button once for VLOC and then again to GPS, you'll see that we now have a loaded flight plan and something to follow in the BDHI. Now, so all that's left for me to do is just to zero out the altimeters, okay. Now we're going to run the flight plan. The reason why I've stuck it down there to the left is just to show you that I'm not using the flight plan as a guidance. I'm running purely off of the instruments. So let's spool up the engines for milk. Let it settle, brakes off, reheat on. Reheat, let the engine settle. Now on the BDHI, the arrow that we're following is the thin one, the VOR needle. The double needle is for Tacan. I'll show you those in a bit. Now I've just got to trim out and keep that needle central. We won't get any bearing, any distance reading in the bottom there. We'll only get that with Tacan, so it won't be until when the needle swings that we know that we're going to have to change our bearing. So we're just going to wait for Cranwell to creep up on the nose, and the single needle should start to swing. As you can see in the sphere indicator, it says we're going 2, so we're heading in the right direction. There's Cranwell there. We want to head to Waddington, and I know that's off to the right, so we should get a needle swing in a minute. waypoint. Took a little bit for it to kick in. Okay, so we're heading north now towards Lincoln. God, I love flying this thing down low. As you can see, we're slightly off the flight plan there. If we do take a look down, you can see we're slightly off. It's just indicating that we need to come over to the right a bit to be on the flight plan. But as we're going to be swinging to the right in a minute, there's really no point. So we've now crossed the flight plan. We should get new swing again in a minute. And there we go, swing to the right. Okay, and we'll try and get this thing on the flight plan properly. I'm going to go slightly over, bring that indicator, vertical indicator into the centre a bit more. As you can see, it's creeping in ever so slowly. Okay, so we'll get on the needle now. Okay, and we'll bang on. Well, again, we've crept over ever so slightly, but we'll pretty much bang on flight plan. Again, if we look down to our right, you can see we're on it, on the magenta line. Okay, there we go, we're on it now. Great stuff. See some needle creep coming in now. So another swing to the right in a minute. Here we go. Ping. Okay, over to the right. Start slowing down a bit now. creek. I'm going to turn right in a second. And I'm going to start turning right now. Don't want to really overrun this one too much. On the nose. Right. Not going to land. Just going to do an overflight. So we're cruising around about 400 knots, just under 4,000 feet. It's going to do some basic navigation using VOR and Tacan. So we're going to be using the sphere indicator again and the BDHI. We're going to make sure that that's still in VT, VOR Tacan, and the sphere indicator is all over to the left, VOR ILS. I'm going to tune into Gamston, so 112 800. Issues there, and we're just going to turn onto the VOR needle here. Point us in the right direction for Gamston. Again, we don't have any distance measuring, don't in VOR mode. I'm just going to level out here. Now I know we're not too far from Gamston, so we're just going to follow this arrow until we get over the top, and it should swing when we get there once we know we're over the top, and then I will tune into Ottringen. We won't go all the way to Ottringen, but I'll just show you that the arrow will change direction, and then we'll head back to Coningsby on the Tacan and do an approach using ILS. Okay, we've just gone over the top of Gamston. As you can see, we've got now a switch from 2, and it's pointed behind us. Turn round. See Gamston's just down there. Okay, I'll tune into Ottringen 1113 900. Okay, bearing needle is pointing in that direction, so we'll just follow that for a minute. And there you go. I mean, it's easy enough. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any distance reading. That's the only downside to that. But you can navigate from VOR to VOR that way. Okay, we're going to change the Tacan now, so we're going to tune out of this. We'll go to 110500 just to get out of the tuning of anything local. And we're going to come over to this function, make sure that it is switched to transmit receive, otherwise you will not get bearing readout, not bearing, distance readout. So on the switch you don't want to be air to air, you don't want to be in receive, you want transmit receive. And then we're going to tune into 48 X-ray. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and now you can see that the Tacan needle has now moved, and we now have distance measuring. We're 28 nautical miles away. So if we turn onto that double arrow, we'll level out here. What we'll do is we'll make an approach on 06. I know that the ILS for that is 111.15. We'll tune into that when we get there so we don't get any interference. Okay. Stop climbing. Also, you don't need to be doing 1,000,000 miles an hour to get to where you want to go. Just enjoy the flight. Very hands-on aircraft, which is great. It means you have to keep constantly trimming, turning, making sure the instruments are where they're supposed to be. It's a great aircraft to fly. Anybody who likes automated flying, I really don't see the point. I think the point of being a pilot is not just making sure the aircraft's in the air, but also, you know, the functionality of the whole thing. You're a mechanic, electrician, aerodynamicist, everything all rolled in at one. You're not just there to make sure the plane stays up in the air and gets where it needs to go. The gauges are looking good. Fuel's looking good. There's a warning signs there. Start seeing Collins behind the nose at some stage. Get ready for my PC to stutter as it emerges from the existence, like it normally does. So we've got the wash there, cruise line, so it must be it there, I'm guessing. Brake to the left, head out towards sort of Skegness area, tune into the ILS, make sure all our instruments are tuned into that, getting the information it needs to be fed correct before we make the approach. Yeah, that was down there. Our ILS. So all the way to the left for the ILS. Don't need, well, we can use that as well, I suppose, just to make sure that we know where the airfield is in sight if you're in really bad weather. The Tacan reading would help as well in a big way. There it is. Tuning at 111.105. I've got nothing at the moment until we pass those 0625. Just wait for this arrow to swing before we turn left. 3 miles to go. Okay, so we're going to do extended downwind, get ourselves configured, start throttling back, start reading the ILS now, so we've got localizer information and flight glide path. Brake out. Okay, get down, first stage flaps, second stage flaps, air brakes in. Keep it above 150 knots. So it should be out. To the Tacan says that we are around about 8 nautical miles out and now we're turning. Start turning in now. Throttle up ever so slightly so we don't bleed too much speed off. Swinging in. Glide slope's coming up now as well. Slightly above glide slope, nothing to worry about. those out. There we go. Now the next section I'm going to show you is the Doppler radar, where you can add a waypoint via a Tacan. Now, I obviously can't do that or do any of the calculations in this because, one, I don't have a compass or a ruler. So I'm going to need an external source to do this, because I want to get from, you know, as much as I know my route from Coningsby to RAF Holbeach like the back of my own hand, I would like to do it without having to use VFR. So obviously got Coningsby here. I'm going to be taking off runway 07. Well, we won't be taking off, I'll be in the air to skip that bit. But what I'd like to do is to navigate from the Tacan at RAF Coningsby and get myself to the bombing or air warfare range, as it's now called, RAF Holbeach. Now, to do this, I'm going to be using a little nav map. I'm going to make this bigger. As you can see, we've got RAF Coningsby, and the heading for runway 07 is 073. So we're going to need to remember that. So write down 073, and then we're going to expand out, and as you can see, every increment here has nautical miles. And we're just going to expand that until we get a good one, a good decent amount. I'm just going to place that over RAF Coningsby, so it's central. And as you can see, the air weapons range at RAF Holbeach lies just outside, well, just inside or outside the 20 nautical mile area. So what I'm going to do is I will run that for let's call it 18 nautical miles, because it's not quite all the way there, because I want to get on top of the target if I can. And then the bearing from that Tacan is 135 or 137 if we go just over 135, 137 to about here. So we're going to go and get in the cockpit. We're going to set up the Doppler on the course of 073. Then we're going to add in a waypoint on bearing 137 for 18 nautical miles. And what that will do is it will lay a waypoint there, and you'll be able to follow it using the bearing distance heading indicator from inside the cockpit. So we're going to close this, and we're going to jump in the jet. Hi Apex Chief, you're always floating about. And we shall get the aircraft set up. Right, you'll have to forgive me, I'm committing a sin here. I'm actually setting an active pause, just simply because there's too much to do in such a short amount of time, and I don't want to be flying too far away from RAF Coningsby. So I'm in active pause at the moment just to set it up. Now, first thing we're going to need to do is come to the Tacan, make sure that white line is on the transmit receive. 1, 2. Okay, and we're going to tune in 48 X-ray. Okay, come over to the BDHI. We've got our double arrow pointing towards Coningsby, showing us that we are 21.5 nautical miles out. Now, our next stage, we want to add that extra vector. So, come to the Doppler. We're going to put in the runway course 073. That additional vector is going to be on 137, I think. I'll change that to eventually. 137 in. And then it was for 18 nautical miles. Okay, now we've got the additional vector setting on Doppler, so we're going to get on runway 07073 heading. Once I get on that heading, I will switch this over into additional vector mode, and that will point us in the right direction. So my sole purpose now is to get to the Tacan at RAF Coningsby on 073. Once I get over the runway, flick this switch, and then we'll go on to our next waypoint, or the additional vector. Hopefully that will take us to RAF Hull Beach. So I'm going to unpause and get ourselves where I need to be. Double arrow in, double out. Coningsby off to our 11 o'clock. Just going to turn on that now. Should be on 173 by the time we get there. Switch on to the additional vector. Okay, so we've got our 135 now. Okay. 137. Now we're going to do what I said I was going to do in the video earlier, just quickly show you the autopilot. Autopilot is on, altitude hold is on. That's it. Very basic. So I'm just going to keep the altitude held. We are on 137 and we want to go for about 18 nautical miles. Once we hit 18 nautical miles, I'm just going to see where we end up. See we're drifting off ever so slightly. Switch that autopilot off just for a sec, refresh that. off ever so slightly. Okay, quite a lot of altitude on. I'm now on 10 nautical miles. You can see RF Hull Beach there. Also the sphere indicator you can flick over to Tacan now as well. As you can see, we are 137, we're bang on the nose for the targets at RAF Hull Beach, although we are heading the wrong way. It runs in a clockwise direction. 15, 16, 17, 18, we get needle swing, yep, and we are over the target. So that's adding the additional vector onto the Tacan using the Doppler. As I say, this aircraft is immense fun, it really is. It just adds a little bit extra to the sim with all these characteristics. The handling of this aircraft is rock solid, and I think I've just proved that. Doing the 18 nautical miles, there we go, we are above the target. So there you go, Azurpoly knocked out of the park again. Hopefully you've got something from this video. If not, I apologise. If I've got anything wrong, let me know. Just add in the comments. I may take a little while getting back to them because I've got a lot going on in my life at the moment, but when I do, I will try my best to get on top of those. Anyway, I'm going to crack on now, so I'm not going to finish like I did last time, so I'm just going to say thank you for watching, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.